What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making this a part of your day. However you're watching, however you're following the show, just surpassed 2 million views on YouTube today, or maybe even a couple of days ago. But either way, appreciate all the support that you guys are continuously showing on this channel. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show if you feel so inclined to do so. But there are a decent amount of things to get through today. This isn't necessarily a Benstant reaction. This isn't necessarily a full show that I'm getting to you guys. There are some things in the works with this channel that I am working on that for now I'm just going to start getting to you guys a little bit of segments here and there. But for now, let's react to something we heard today. And I thought I was going to be the only person to react to this. I guess I was wrong here. But don't forget to also follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. It's the same at everywhere, and you can find those in the description down below on this video. But here is something I want to talk about. So for those that don't know, part of what got me into sports broadcasting and the media work that I've done or covering teams was my affinity for that being one Colin Cowherd. And it's not because of the things Colin Cowherd says, because even me, one of the biggest Colin Cowherd fanboys in the world, can tell you that 70% of the things just come off as very outlandish. But I love that show. I love Colin. I have met a decent amount of athletes in my life in being in this media space. I don't have a desire to meet any athlete in the world. I just don't. I wouldn't be against it, but I'm not necessarily going out of my way to have lunch with any one of these guys. I don't really have a lot of interest. Part of what I believe separates me from a lot of the other people is I have no interest in having relationships with players, because then I feel like I can't be as hard on them. I'm not trying to be friends with anyone. I want to be able to give my take clean and concisely and conscience-free, basically. But if there was one person I could meet in the world, it would probably be that being one Colin Cowherd. And so when I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel. This didn't come off of his show, The Herd. This came off of his own YouTube channel, The Volume, the Colin Cowherd podcast. And he was talking to one John Middlecoff about the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams game that they do. They do this weekly roundup every week and on Sunday nights, and Colin and John Middlecoff got in the discussion about Kyler Murray. And they were talking about, if you hadn't already seen the clip, it's mega viral, it's everywhere. If you are in the Arizona Cardinals community, I'm sure you've seen it. But if you haven't, you can go check that out on his channel. They broke it out very simply for you to be able to see this. But Colin and John were debating the future of Kyler Murray and what it looks like for the Arizona Cardinals. And Middlecoff was on the side of that I was on, which is you can get rid of Kyler, but then what are you going to do? He believes in Jonathan Gannon. He believes in the defense and adding players and that it can get better. But what I've seen, and I've monitored both these guys' opinions on Kyler Murray as the season has progressed, because I'm a fan of Colin Cowherd and even a little bit so, that being John Middlecoff. And I watch the reactions every week. And Colin had talked about the Cardinals should trade Kyler Murray, or that I guess the exact quote I see is, I think you can get a first-round pick for Kyler Murray. And there's been a lot of backlash about this. A lot of the Kyler Murray fanboys are coming out of the woodwork, talking about basically how they cannot believe that this would ever be of discussion. Kyler's awesome. Kyler's this. Kyler's that. Guys, let's just talk about Kyler Murray really quickly and the season that he's had as a whole thus far, because it's been up and down, to say the least, so far for Kyler. And so the people that are ultimately defending him are the people defending a guy with 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a 91 passer rating. If I just did this for you, if I just said, take the name off the jersey, take put a blindfold over your eyes, let me just read you the statistics of one player. 3,600 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. You'd probably say that player who on quarterbacking a team that is at this point in the season 7-8, 7-9, you'd say that quarterback's probably mediocre. So it shouldn't take you as a surprise that these are the conversations being had. And here's my reaction ultimately to Colin Cowherd saying the Cardinals should trade Kyler Murray. And it is very similar to what John Middlecoff said. And it is pretty much to the point where it's something I had said about a week and a half ago. I think it was directly after the Seahawks game. And that was, you can say you want to move on from Kyler Murray. It's easy to do that. It's an easy reaction. It's something that will get clicks. It's emotional. I get all that. You're a fan. You want to fix things quickly. Kyler Murray, trading him or releasing him or letting him go for any extensive purpose is one, a ginormous cap hit, and two, what are you going to do at quarterback then? Because then you have to allocate more resources to the quarterback position monetarily and all your time in free agency or in the draft to find one. There is not a quarterback in this draft at this point that I think is easily better than Kyler Murray, especially the ones that are seen as attainable. A Jackson Dart, a Carson Beck, one of those two guys are some of the guys that you'd be looking at in this draft. And I'll get to those in just a minute. But it's easy to have the opinion of, let's move on from Kyler. Okay, that's cool. Then what? And that would be my reaction to what I saw from Colin. Colin is in the attention space. He likes to have big opinions. I'm all in on that. I love Colin Cowherd. But this is one of those things where, even with the Cowboys, it's always like, get rid of Dak Prescott. Okay, get rid of Dak Prescott, then what? Because getting rid of Kyler Murray is just one small part of the plan. You then have to fill that void. And if you want to go get Sam Darnold, that's fine, but you're allocating another $50 million to a different quarterback who hasn't been good outside of Kevin O'Connell, and then you have a ginormous cap hit for Kyler Murray. There's no easy fix. You're not going to get Shedeur Sanders. You're not going to get Cam Ward. You have to suck it up and realize that you're stuck with Kyler for better or for worse for another year. You're not moving on from Kyler Murray. You're just not. Unless you can find an actual viable option that makes sense, both fiscally and for the future, you're not moving on from Kyler. For better or for worse, you are tied to Kyler Murray. And so these people emoting or having a reaction or getting upset with Colin Cowherd saying or throwing it out there that they should trade Kyler Murray because he thinks that there's a market and that this is a weak quarterback draft and that, or this is a weak NFL draft and that you could potentially get a first-round pick for him. I get it. When you don't perform, this is what happens. I don't blame Colin for having this opinion at all. On the surface, that's exactly what the Cardinals should do. Move on, rip the Band-Aid off. But it is easy to say, move on from Kyler Murray. What's hard is, move on for Kyler Murray, then what? What's your plan? Because you're not allocating another $50 million to Sam Darnold, who hasn't been good outside of Kevin O'Connell. You're likely not starting a quarterback that you draft this year who is not seen as one of the better quarterbacks in the draft. You're not getting Cam Ward. You're not getting Shedeur Sanders. What's your plan? So that's what I would say to everyone out there who's been very upset with the play of Kyler, and I'm right there with you. But there are things that you can change. To Kyler's credit, he has had injuries to the offensive line. Drew Petzing seems to be one of the worst offensive coordinators I've ever seen. And we've seen Kyler perform at an MVP level before. Is he inconsistent? Yes. Does he have flaws? 1,000%. And this is one of my rare defenses of Kyler Murray over the past couple weeks. I've went after him for weeks for some of the things that he's done in games. He's been sporadic. He's been random on the field. He's throwing horrendous interceptions week in and week out. But I can assure you, to everyone out there who thinks it can't get worse, go check out the Las Vegas Raiders. Go check out the New York Giants. You really want Aiden O'Connell or Drew Lock starting games for you? I can assure you, it can get way worse. We can have this conversation about moving on from Kyler Murray, but you can't have it without having an actual backup plan. Because at that point, you're just spewing out nonsense. For A, to get clicks, or B, to just be upset. So that's where I would land on it. And if you want to talk about a couple of a future plan for Kyler, I absolutely believe in bringing in a veteran quarterback to put some pressure on the heels of Kyler in training camp, showing him that it's not exactly his job right away. And heck, people might think I'm crazy about this. I talked about this last night on stream with the AZ Sports fan, my guy Mike, and it was, I'm more than willing to take a flyer on a quarterback and think about the future and life without Kyler Murray. And I will reiterate this take again closer to the draft. But we just saw, if you are really upset with the play of Kyler Murray, and you understand that you're not getting Sam Darnold because he's too expensive, or you're not going to be able to draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, I think there is a guy out there that does make sense for the Arizona Cardinals in the 5th round, in the 6th round, in the 7th round that you're willing to take a flyer on. Carson Beck was seen as a top 5 pick and the best quarterback in the draft coming into this year. Now, he has completely fallen on his face multiple times this year. But there is an argument to be made. His offensive line isn't great. Ladd McConkey isn't there anymore. Brock Bowers isn't there anymore. It's more of a defensive-driven team. That's a guy that I feel like you could draft in the 5th, 6th, 7th round and try to make that a recovery project. Potentially restart that clock. Now listen, if he's terrible, it's a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. You didn't waste anything on him. But that is the type of guy I would like to see the Cardinals go after in the draft and see if he's actually got the skill set it takes to make it in the NFL, and maybe he just wasn't supported very well in Georgia, or maybe he just needs a little bit more coaching. But it was seen that this guy's got all the tangibles. So if you're saying move off of Kyler Murray, that would be a then what is your succession plan? Carson Beck makes a lot of sense for this team just to take a flyer on. But this idea that if you're Colin Cowherd or a guy I agree with in John Middlecoff that you're not going to move off of him, or you're someone covering the team, or you're just a fan, move off from Kyler Murray, I would ask you to go take a look at the Raiders or the Giants or one of these godforsaken bad teams at quarterback. The Saints, they're even. Spencer Rattler's worse than Kyler. Drew Lock is worse than Kyler. Aiden O'Connell is worse than Kyler. I can assure you, although it doesn't feel like that, it can absolutely get way worse. So I understand the season has gone poorly, and in my opinion, it's been an abject failure. I am so over this idea that just because this team won one more game, won a few more games than they did last year, I don't count that as a success. Because people always say, if I told you at the beginning of the year that this team was going to nearly double their win total from last year, you would have taken it. And I would have said, yeah, on the surface, but you'd also have to add this caveat. If you told me at the beginning of the year I would nearly double my win total, but you're going to go 6-4 through 10 weeks, and you're going to miss the playoffs and completely collapse at the end of the year, that would be seen as a failure. Because expectations change week in and week out. This is a what have you done lately for me league. And what the Cardinals have done lately for me is let me down. And let me just put that right out there just really quickly for you. Kyler's a part of that. But it's not just Kyler. The defense wasn't good against the Panthers, although I've said my piece about the defense, that it's not necessarily all in them. Drew Petzing has issues at OC. Jonathan Gannon's team has become undisciplined over the past couple of weeks, racking up penalties. So as much as you want to blame Kyler, and I'm right there with you, he still is the best option right now for the Cardinals at quarterback. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love it. You don't even have to be indifferent about it. You can dislike it, but it's the God's honest truth. Because I understand the frustrations with Kyler, and check out the last 7 videos I've done, the last 7 rants I've done. I'm there as well. But just be honest with what it is. Kyler is the best option for this team right now, for better or for worse. Kyler still is accurate. I think he's got a great deep ball outside of this year. He can run, and he's got to start running more. And he's one of the most athletic players and fastest players in the NFL. So there are benefits to Kyler. What we have seen to this point is we're 6 years in. There's clear limitations. What we haven't seen yet is, and what the Cardinals will likely experiment with next year is, throw a ton of money and a lot of resources at this offense, at this defense, load up and see what Kyler can do with that. Because we saw that with Brock Purdy last year. He nearly made the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. He nearly won the Super Bowl. And he nearly made it the year before if his elbow doesn't explode. So there's an idea that this could work with Kyler. But overall, if you're saying that this guy just needs to go but don't have a succession plan in place or a thought in your mind that might not work, I can't help you.